Hey everyone, so I wanted to talk today about relationships, but the parts of relationships that we probably don't often talk about, or the things that are really hard to accept, but there's no manual in how to cope with them. Like, for example, what do you do when your partner tells you that you're everything that they want in a partner, yet they still don't want to be with you? And one of the hardest realities to grasp is you can't force someone to love you in the same way that you can't force yourself to love someone. And that's an extremely difficult thing to accept. And I know that for myself in the past, I've found that I've often tried to prove my love to someone and to prove to them that I am worthy of their love. But love is not something that you prove. It's not something that you should have to win from someone else. It's something that should be freely given. And if it isn't given, then they're probably trying to force themselves to feel something for you that they don't. And that's something that's really, really hard to accept. And I don't believe that anyone intentionally tries to hurt anyone else. And when it comes to relationships and relationships ending in particular, I don't think anyone wants to cause pain. And so when they make comments like that you're everything that I want in a partner, but I just don't want to be with you, I think that comes from a good place. It's just they're not ready for a relationship, or they're lacking something within their heart. And you can't exactly fault them for that. It's just, how do you then cope with those feelings? And something that, isn't talked about is when you go through a breakup, it's one of the most emotionally traumatic things that you can go through. You essentially go through a drug withdrawal, or you are going through a drug withdrawal, because your partner offers all of the chemicals that are so good for you. You get endorphins from having sex, you get dopamine from every single text message that they send you, which in today's day and age, that could be up to 200 a day. You've got the serotonin of feeling valued and having a purpose in life. And then obviously you've got the oxytocin of love and trust and when you orgasm, there's oxytocin as well. And when you lose your partner, or when you break up, or when things end, or whatever else, you lose all of those chemicals along with it. And so you're literally going through a chemical withdrawal, which is no different than going through alcohol withdrawal symptoms. But we don't talk about that in society, and yet it happens to all of us. So how do people cope, or what do they do, or what is acceptable? And, we frown upon those people who turn to drugs or turn to alcohol, but who can blame them? Because drugs and alcohol and gambling and all of those things, they provide dopamine, and dopamine makes us feel good in the moment. And so it's no wonder that people turn to those things during times of distress. And there's not exactly manuals on how to handle breakups. And in today's society, it's almost like people expect you to get over a breakup within a few weeks. And when you're still struggling years later after a breakup that happened, or it wasn't a bad breakup or anything like that, people are confused. Well, how are you still struggling with this? Well, it's emotionally traumatic for a lot of people, and you are going through a drug withdrawal, and it's not easy to find those chemicals elsewhere. You're also grieving. You're grieving the identity that you had with that person. You're grieving the memories that you made. You're grieving the future that you no longer have with them. And you're grieving probably a loss of friendships that you potentially had. And within that grief, you're going to go through the 5 stages, which is normal. We accept that when it comes to someone dying, yet we don't talk about it when it comes to breakups. The other thing that in today's day and age with technology and whatever else is that it's extremely hard to move on and get over someone, because we're constantly accessible, and so are our partners. And so our phones serve as a constant reminder of what we had and what we no longer have. So every single time that you look at your message, or you look at your phone and there is no message from your partner, that hurts just a little bit, because they could be messaging you, but they're not. And that's hard to move on from. 30, 40, 50 years ago, when you broke up with someone, you didn't have to think about the thought of them contacting you. Maybe they might send you a letter, maybe they might call you on the phone, but you weren't thinking about them all the time. Whereas in today's day and age, you are thinking about your ex all the time, because you've been conditioned to with technology. And so my advice, like practical advice with that, is if you are wanting to move on, and you do have to make a choice, do you want to hold on to the hope that you're going to get back together, or do you want to make the decision to move on? Because if it's the latter and you do want to move on, I think there are certain practical steps that you can take to help with that process. And one of those is deleting them off of everything. Delete them off Facebook, delete their number, block their number, because if they have access to you, it's going to occupy your mind on a conscious or subconscious level. You're going to be thinking to yourself, oh, my ex could contact me, but they're not. And so it's impossible to move on from something that you're constantly thinking about. You actually have to let go, and you can't let go of something that you're still being reminded of. The other thing is conditioning. So when you're with someone, whether it's for a week, 2 weeks, a year, however long it is, your environment becomes conditioned to the memories that you formed with that person. So, if you've shared your bed with them, or if you slept on the couch with them, once they're no longer there, that couch, because of classical conditioning, will just serve as a reminder of those memories. And same with your bed. So as soon as you walk into your room, you're immediately going to be thinking subconsciously of the fact that, oh wow, I shared my bed with this person. And so a practical suggestion to that is change the layout of your environment, unfamiliarize yourself with it. So whether that's moving your bed around, whether that's buying new sheets, it's doing whatever you can to decondition or to extinguish those feelings that you had or created with that person. Other than that, you have to find those chemicals elsewhere. And I went through a similar experience back in October when I no longer played soccer, and I suffered a little bit of, it was pretty heartbreaking to be cut from the United squad. And I went through a drug withdrawal from that because I wasn't getting the endorphins from soccer. I wasn't getting the dopamine from the competition. I wasn't getting the serotonin of feeling valued, and I wasn't getting the oxytocin of trusting my teammates. And so I struggled, I almost went back into a dark place after that because I was going through a drug withdrawal. And so I had to find those drugs elsewhere. And I did. I found that in my workplace. I found that in the place that I started working at in September. And fortunately, it was an environment in which I immediately felt safe and I felt valued. I felt important. So I was getting those feelings of serotonin. I was making conscious steps to get the oxytocin by hugging people for longer than 20 seconds. As ridiculous as that is, it actually helped because that helped build trust with my coworkers that might have taken longer to form. And the endorphins, I was still working out, but it wasn't the same. So that was a difficult thing to get over. And as for dopamine, I honestly am not against or opposed to people getting on a dating app after a breakup, not necessarily for a rebound relationship or to get in a relationship, but purely for the dopamine hits that you get when someone likes you, or just that feeling of being wanted. You've just been in a relationship where you felt wanted. Well, hopefully you felt wanted every single day, to all of a sudden not feeling wanted by someone. So if you jump on a dating app, you're getting, or it doesn't even have to be a dating app, just anything where you're getting that dopamine hit that isn't necessarily destructive. Some people, they turn to healthier coping mechanisms like meditation or yoga or things like that, and that's fantastic for those people. But a lot of us, we go to what's easy or what's convenient, and that's alcohol, that's drugs, that's using sex as an addiction, and that's what we're looking for. Is we're looking for something to become addicted to because we've lost the thing that we've been addicted to before that, and that was our partner. We become addicted to the person that we're with, not necessarily the person, but how they make us feel. Anyway, that's a lot of rambling. There was one more point that I wanted to make that I wrote a little note about it, and that was, how do you know whether someone loves you, or how can you tell if someone loves you? And my response to that is, it's not in their words and it's not in their actions. It's going to be in their patterns. So don't look to what they say, don't look to what they do, but look to what they're doing consistently on a day-to-day basis. Are they saying good morning to you when they wake up, or are they turning straight to their phone? Are they prioritizing you when they have a night off or a day off, or are they wanting to spend that with their friends? Those are the small things that can help determine whether or not someone values your relationship as much as what you do. Anyway, that's all that I have to say on this topic for now. I'm sure there'll be much more to come. As always, look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. So feel free to comment, like, share, or do whatever. Have a fabulous afternoon. See ya.